Here's a wild thought. What if you could understand a city not as a place with streets and buildings, but as a piece of software? That's the idea behind a project called OS Belgrade. It's an attempt to map the entire soul of a city using the language of code. Think about it. The last time you went somewhere new, you probably grabbed a travel guide, right? But what if, instead of that, you were handed its technical manual? What if you could just read up on its hidden logic, its unspoken rules, all its little quirks, just like you were learning a brand new operating system for your computer? The whole mindset of the project is about totally reframing that feeling of being an outsider, that feeling of displacement, that it is not just a personal failure, it's a bug that needs fixing. And becoming a local fitting in is not just about adapting, it's a full-on installation process. It completely changes the way you think about what it means to be new somewhere. Alright, so let's really dig into this core idea, looking at a city as if it were a living, breathing piece of code. What in the world is a cultural operating system? Well, you can think of it as an art project that's creating a user manual for the culture of Belgrade. It's documenting all those unwritten social rules, the city's unique functions, and even its glitches, all using the super specific language you'd find in a software development guide. And here's the part that's truly mind-bending. They're not just kidding around with this metaphor. The poems and observations about life in Belgrade are literally written as working Python code, and they're hosted on actual developer platforms like GitHub. They're using the exact same tools a programmer would use to build an app. So if you're going to document a city like it's a piece of software, you're going to need a manual, right? So what does a cultural manual actually look like? Let's break down how they have structured this thing. The whole project is set up to perfectly mimic real-world software documentation. All the cultural notes and poems are sorted into different modules, with each one tackling a specific piece of Belgrade's cultural operating system. For instance, the first module is called Core Functions. Now in software, these are the absolute must-have processes the system needs just to run. OS Belgrade takes that exact same logic and applies it to a city's culture. But what does a core function of a city actually look like in this context? Well, memory management could be about how the city remembers or forgets its own history. And social networking protocols, they could be the unwritten rules of how you talk, act, and connect with people inside a traditional Serbian cafe, a kafana. It's a technical language for these really deep human things. But as any programmer knows, no system is perfect, right? And that's why this project has a whole module dedicated to system errors. This is where they document all the ways Belgrade's cultural OS can glitch, crash, or just act weird. We're not talking about a computer crash here. A system error is that super awkward moment of cultural misunderstanding, or that time you get stuck in a bureaucratic loop that makes no sense, or that social interaction where you realise, oh no, I've just broken a rule I didn't even know existed. I mean, we've all been there. Now this whole process of finding functions and documenting errors isn't purely random. It's actually super structured, just like a real software launch, and it follows a very specific 12-week deployment plan. It has its own roadmap, which progresses just like you'd expect. It kicks off with the initial boot, that's just getting the basics installed. Then you move into core integration, where you start really engaging with the key social systems. By weeks 8 to 10, you're deep into analysing advanced protocols. And it finally all wraps up with system refinement. It is a methodical journey from being an outsider to becoming a fully integrated user. So after all this coding and observation and debugging, what does the project actually make? You know, what are the tangible things that come out of it? Well, the main thing is a physical book of poetry that is designed to look and feel exactly like a technical manual you'd get with a new application. There's also a cool interactive digital version that even includes field recordings from the city as system sounds. And they're even making visual flowcharts that try to map out the logic of how this happened. The project even has its own live status dashboard. You can see the current version is 0.2.0 alpha. So it's still an active development integration. Progress is at 8%, so they're in the early stages. The whole thing really commits to the aesthetic. And then you have the known issues, which are just brilliant. Temporal expectations, calibrations, incomplete. What a perfect way to say you're still getting used to the local pace of life or personal space parameters by acknowledging they require some adjustment. These are the real human challenges of adapting to a new culture, but they're framed as technical bugs that just need a patch. It's fantastic. Okay, so this might be a really clever, really creative art project, but what's the deeper meaning here? Why does reframing an entire city as an operating system actually matter? Well, here's the key difference. A traditional guidebook tells you what to see, the monuments, the restaurants, the museums, but a cultural operating system, it tries to show you how to see by documenting the invisible software of daily life, those underlying protocols that really, truly make a city tick. At the end of the day, and this is the ultimate goal, it's to create something that is both a beautiful work of art, a poetry collection, and also a genuine, useful tool for cultural analysis. It bridges that gap between the artistic and the analytical, using one to make the other one clearer. This framework transforms your everyday experiences. That confusing ride on the tram, it's no longer just frustrating, it's now raw data for your navigation protocol documentation. A fun afternoon at a coffee shop, that's a chance to map out the city's social networking API. Every single thing that happens becomes another chance to learn the system. I'll leave you with this final thought to take away. If you were to apply this very same framework to your own city or your own neighbourhood, what would be its biggest bug? What's that one known issue that really defines its uniqueness? Maybe, just maybe, it just has a quirky operating system.